Joining me now from the Senate Press Gallery are Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia and Republican Senator Mike Crapo of Idaho. They are part of a bipartisan group of senators who have worked for months tirelessly on a deficit reduction proposal. Thank both of you for being with us this evening. And let me ask, I'll start off with a question to both of you. We'll start with you, Senator Crapo. What are the odds, do you think, of a bipartisan deal by August 2nd, and what will be the size and scope if there is one?
Well, you know, it's impossible to place odds on this because it's so difficult right now, but I'll tell you the size of it needs to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 trillion, in my opinion, just to give us the breathing space that we need in order to get our fiscal situation, our fiscal paradigm shifted to what it needs to be. I think all parties are working hard to get there, but as you can see from the negotiations we've had over the last 6 months, there's a tremendous amount on the table, and there's a lot of complexity that needs to be worked through.
Let me ask you this, because you and Senator Warner and 4 other senators to start and 3 other senators still have worked day and night with all kinds of the best intentions, but you couldn't come up with a final consensus solution. If the Gang of 5 can't do it, how do we expect the Gang of 536 to ever do it?
Well, first of all, the Gang of 5 is going to move forward. I'm very confident of that. We have made tremendous progress, and I still feel very hopeful that we are going to be able to get a really comprehensive paradigm shift in American fiscal policy into play. And what I'm talking about there, what we've been talking about, is something in the neighborhood of the $4 to $5 trillion range. It puts everything on the table. We deal with all sides of the issue, and we do it in a way that can bring together the competing ideologies about how we should handle revenue, how we should handle tax policy, how we should handle entitlements, discretionary spending, war spending, disaster policy. It's very complex. And I think the fact that we've taken 6 months to work through this at a very detailed level shows the level of complexity, but it also shows that we can get there. You have 5 senators now, 6 senators at the beginning, who are from very broad and diverse parts of the political spectrum. And yet we have been able to stay on task and get tremendous agreement on focusing our fiscal policy in this country in the right direction.
Senator, do you expect to put out a Gang of 5 recommendations over the next couple days or week?
Well, let me say I hope that we will. There is no deal yet, and we still have some significant issues to resolve, but we, as I said, are making significant progress. And I can tell you that already the structure of what we have put together is becoming increasingly obvious as the most powerful and potent structure that's out there. I really think that the approach that we have taken is the approach that is going to help us build a bipartisan solution, and it's not just going to be a solution that both sides can agree to. It is going to be a powerful shift in American policy that will help us aim this country's fiscal policy in the right direction.
How does your approach, without getting into specifics, which I assume you're not going to do now, though you can, you're welcome to if you'd like to, but how does your approach differ from Bowles-Simpson?
Well, we do use the Bowles-Simpson template, if you will. So if you're familiar with the Bowles-Simpson template, that is the basic foundation from where we are building. But what we are doing is going into each issue, from Social Security to the health care system, entitlements, all of the entitlements, to discretionary spending, to defense spending, and to the revenue issues. And we are finding, I guess what I would say is, creative solutions that maintain the objective of achieving the deficit reduction in each of those areas, but still allow the competing ideologies to find success in the process. In other words, we are finding ways that help us bridge those gaps and develop win-win solutions. It's not easy. That's why it's taken so long, but we are making that progress.
Could I just add one thing? I mean, all of us have really operated in, I think, an enormously good faith. And, Senator Coburn took a sabbatical. We're hopeful, actually, he may still come back. There's an awful lot of other senators we've kind of briefed top lines that are very interested. And it's been challenging, but what we've done is with the Bowles-Simpson approach, we've also looked at the process. How do you actually get it through those other 535 folks and the president? How do you make sure that if we put caps in place and other tools in place, they're not gotten rid of if the economy gets better, so that we keep the fiscal discipline? You know, we don't have a perfect path. I don't think there is a perfect path, but I'm, you know, very optimistic like Mike, and I know that from some of your viewers and all the press, you'll only believe it when you see it. So we don't want to predict a date, but I still think the work product we've got, whether it's incorporated in the activities that the president's doing and with the other congressional leaders, takes a different path. There's too much good work here not to have in the mix.
And Al, I'd like to follow up and just highlight something that Mark just said. In addition to looking at all of the different pieces of this, from discretionary to entitlement to tax policy and the like, one of the most powerful parts of what we are doing is we are creating an enforcement system in our agreement that will be stronger than I think anything Congress has ever seen. Americans are familiar with how Congress can use its own loopholes to get around its own spending restraints. We are creating an ability for Congress to say, for the American people to say to Congress, no, you're not going to do that anymore. And that's one of the most powerful parts of what I believe we are working on.
Senator Crapo, let me ask you this. Your leader in the Senate, Senator Mitch McConnell, has said the package cannot include any revenue increases. On several occasions, you've now said it'll be a balanced package which will include revenues. Does Senator McConnell speak for the Republican caucus, however, and does that rule that out?
Well, I think it's very important that you understand that what we are doing is building on the Bowles-Simpson approach, which changed the paradigm, if you will, of how we deal with tax policy. Instead of the age-old battle over whether we're going to raise tax rates or lower tax rates, and whether we're going to raise rates on the rich or lower them for the middle class or what have you, we are approaching it in a different way. Yes, we are looking at the tax expenditures and the tax loopholes, if you will, that have been discussed so much in the last few days. But we are talking about that in the context of fundamental tax reform, broadening the base, reducing the rates, not increasing the rates, but reducing the rates, and generating a powerful economic stimulus that will generate the kind of revenue that we need to have in order to deal with the revenue side of the equation.
But you still would add net revenues, which Senator McConnell says is a non-starter.
Well, I can't speak for anyone other than myself, but I think that it's very important to understand the difference between raising taxes and raising revenues. I don't think you will find a lot of opposition to fundamental tax reform that creates a much more powerful and dynamic tax code that will generate revenues. The way I put it is this: if you were to look at our income tax code today, I don't think you would find very much disagreement that it would be hard to create one that is more complex, more unfair, more expensive to comply with, and more anti-competitive to U.S. business interests globally. And if we address those problems in our tax code, we will actually be able to reduce rates and increase revenue. And I don't really think there's an argument with that.
Okay, let me ask you both this. If something were put on the table, a $4 trillion plus deficit deal over the next 10 years, over $1 trillion of domestic discretionary cuts, well over $1 trillion of cutbacks in entitlement programs, $400 or $500 billion on defense, and over $1 trillion of revenues. Would you two vote for it in general, and could it pass the Congress?
Well, I think the answer to your question, Al, is, for me, and I'm sure with everyone, because I've negotiated with enough of the senators on this, is it depends on how it's done, but it can be done. And my answer to your question would be there is a way to get there.
Republicans say the one glue that holds the Republican Party together, the only glue since the demise of communism, has been tax cuts. We're for tax cuts no matter what, and what you're asking us to do in some kind of a deal is give up what really is our signature issue.
Well, as I said earlier, the approach that we've taken helps us solve that problem and helps us do it in a way that is phenomenally helpful to America and the economy. But having said that, the bottom line, as Mark says, is with regard to the politics in this country, those who think that they can gain political advantage by stopping us from being able to solve this problem on either side of the equation are making a terrible gamble with America and with our future. I mean, we're talking about the American dream here. This is real and it is big. And the threat to our country is as real as any threat that I have ever seen in my lifetime. And because of that, we've got to park our partisan politics at the door. And we've got to get down to the serious business of finding those kinds of win-win solutions that can help us to preserve our ideological approaches to how we should govern, but reset America's fiscal policy.
And so you don't think your caucus will be intimidated by Grover Norquist, who says any increase in revenues will come after you the next election?
I'll tell you what, the knives are out. When we announced the Fiscal Commission plan back in December, every single special interest group in America got their knives out, and they're still out. The battle is engaged. But at the same time, people across this country who understand that we have got a serious problem and we need to fix it are ready to be serious about getting that solution put into place. And I'm confident that we can get there.